today I'm going to be working on this V2. This is actually the same V2 that I worked on before. There seems to be something that went wrong, some stuff to adjust, and I actually fixed it, so let's go over what I did. Alright, so this V2 came back to me to get a couple of things done to it. The first is to fix the sloth furnace clamp card so that it worked, because previously it wouldn't press the buttons properly. There was also an issue with the activation, or auxiliary, one of those two buttons. And then lastly, the chassis did not want to go into the hilt very easily. Seemed like there was a little bit of resistance there. So, let me go over the resistance first, because that kind of seems to be the cause of all the problems, or at least two of the three. So it ended up that there was a dent right at the inside of these threads here. You can kind of see some sanding I did. I took a Dremel and just deburred it essentially, because the dent, you can definitely tell from here, there's a dent here, but it caused the material to stick into the hilt so that it would prevent the chassis from going in properly or turning. So I ended up just using a Dremel to sand that down, and then I used some smooth sandpaper to smooth it all out. So now the chassis goes in and spins really freely. And I believe that issue might have been the cause of the auxiliary button not working, because like I've mentioned in the previous build, or the previous video about this build, I am not a big fan of the button solution to this chassis. That's because the wires are exposed on the front end of this rotary chassis PCB, which means that eventually, no matter what you do, it's basically going to cut it. If this ever gets forced left or forced right too much, it's going to wear away at the wires. And since I didn't install this, I'm sort of working on someone else's install. There's not much I can do to fix it without doing a complete overhaul of everything. So the main problem is still going to persist. I rewired this whole control box area, which I'll show you in a little bit. And then I had to rewire the auxiliary button because the wire got chopped. My guess is the dent in the hilt caused the chassis to forcibly turn a little too often, which frayed the wire and broke it. So that's why one of the buttons wasn't working. And hopefully now that the dent is gone and this can spin more freely, we won't have any more issues there. But like I said in the previous video, this is still not a permanent solution because unfortunately that wire is in the way always. So I added heat shrink over it to try and give a little layer of protection, and then some E6000 over it to try and add a little more protection, but still it will get worn away eventually. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you line up the chassis notch with the wire. And then you put the bottom end on. And then that's pretty much going to be protecting it as best as you can. But yeah, eventually it still probably will get the wire messed up without a complete overhaul of the button and wiring system. So that's how that works. Now the buttons and the clamp card, I got it working really, really well. So let's hear that. Super satisfying clicks for both the activation and auxiliary. Essentially how I managed to do that was redoing the entire button holder area. So what I did was I removed the previous one, and then I designed and installed my own button holder. The reason being, you want to have the buttons a little bit higher so that the clamp card is able to sit right on top of it, and then you can press the buttons. I added a mechanism to help hold the thing in place so it can be a little finicky, it looks like. But basically what I did to hold the clamp card in place a bit better was I added a very thin strip of foam on the inside of this bar. Very small strip of foam, you can see it there. It's white foam. Just so that it had a little bit of friction to keep it in place a bit more. But if you're going to be removing and putting back the clamp card all the time, it's going to be a little annoying. There we go. and you'll hear the click a lot better once the clamp is squeezed. So when it's open, it might not press the buttons completely, but when it closes, you'll have both buttons pressed. All right, so let me show you it working real quick.
Your overconfidence is your weakness.
And then remember, line up the notch with where the wires are. So pretty much like that. I also greased up the threads a bit. And then you can press both at the same time. There we go. And it works great now. And that just about covers everything I did to fix this V2. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.